having Harvard Westlake help us put the venue on. The remarkable talents of their students is why we're also here tonight. The production of this debate, such as this one, requires immense effort and coordination. And right now I want to thank a few people who are dedicated to helping us put this on. Max Tash, Dave Mintz, and Ari Engelberg. Thank you very much for letting us bring this critter. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary work of this lady right here next to me, Mia Morgan. Initiative and hard work have been instrumental in getting us to this event tonight. I know Craig is going to give your formal introduction, but I just wanted to say that you've been amazing to work with. So thank you so much for making this happen. Tonight, I also want to stand in solidarity with Cortland Bridges and her daughter, if both of you can stand. Now I'm going to try to get this out. Cortland has experienced unimaginable pain and suffering. Her daughter was killed in Venice Beach in December of 2020. She was an innocent bystander. Cortland's daughter had just given birth to her baby. It was an incredibly difficult pregnancy, so she went to Venice to see the sunset. She never made it home. Cortland's sister, who is here tonight, was also there at the event. She is aspiring to be an attorney because of the process that they have had. Standing in solidarity with you means that tonight we want to show how important that these elections are. Before the tragedy happened, you weren't a part of the system and you had to immerse yourself and learn about the system. And you and I have talked about the tragedy and what it's taken you to get here tonight. So as we're here tonight, I want to highlight the profound impact that your vote has on personal lives like Cortland's. I also want to extend a warm welcome to Councilwoman Tracy Park, who is here tonight. Tracy represents the West Side of Los Angeles. As a former municipal attorney who has overcome numerous challenges to become the councilwoman who represents the West Side, I can tell you as somebody who worked for her, she does not accept no as an answer, and this woman has blazed many a trail. Councilwoman Tracy Park.
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to personally thank all of you for being here and for being in tune with these issues, and I want to thank the West Side Current for hosting this and Harvard Westlake for opening up your incredible campus. And Mia, amazing. Thank you so much. I am so excited for your leadership and really honored to share a stage with you and Craig. Thank you so much for moderating this very important conversation tonight. The future of public safety in Los Angeles is at stake in the 2024 election. And I have been pretty vocal in my personal views that the district attorney race is the most important race on the ballot this election cycle. And I say that because not only as an elected official in the city of Los Angeles, but as a resident in the city of Los Angeles, I am sick and tired of the crime. I'm sick and tired of all of it. The street crime, the violent crime, the drug crime, the retail theft, the residential burglaries, the vandalism, and the infrastructure crime, all of that is costing taxpayers millions of dollars. It's driving businesses out of the region, and it's driving hardworking families out of Los Angeles. As the top law enforcement official in the county, the district attorney sets the tone on public safety. He or she is going to make very important decisions about things like how to handle misdemeanors, sentencing enhancement, whether to charge juveniles as adults, and what to do about repeat offenders. The right district attorney will reset relationships with our local law enforcement agencies. They're going to stand with victims, and he or she is going to send a message that we are not going to put up with lawlessness in Los Angeles, and that there are going to be consequences for criminal behavior. The state of Indiana will not be any higher. And so I want to thank all of the candidates for their courage to run, for their courage to be the face of change, and for sharing with us their vision this evening for what a safer Los Angeles looks like. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, I also want to introduce to you tonight our moderator, Craig Fiegener. Craig, who will be moderating the debate, is an award-winning journalist who brings important stories to you every morning on KNX. His experience and commitment to journalism has made him a respected voice in our community. Craig just told me a little bit ago that he started on the radio at 14 years old. So he's got a few years of experience behind him when it comes to moderating tonight's event. His journalism has been a respected voice in the community. We want to thank you for the stories that you're covering, and thank you for being our moderator tonight, Craig.
Hey, Mia Morgan, real quickly, tell us why you wanted to do this.
Well, I really, really care about our community. I think that the district attorney debate is extremely important and something that we all need to be really paying attention to. And I was given the opportunity to connect the Westside Current with Harvard Westlake to host, and I immediately jumped on that opportunity because it's something that I think is extremely critical and super important with everything that's just going on right now in our world, to pick the right district attorney.
Tonight, but let's get seated. Let's get started. We do have one member's not with us. Nathan Hochman is ill, couldn't be with us, and District Attorney George Gascón, previous commitment. So we're left with you guys, and we hope it's correct. I want to dig into some of the reporting I've done, but first, I want to give each of you a minute. And we've done this in alphabetical order, so we're going to start over there with Archuleta and move this way, and then for closings, we'll do the opposite. So let's begin over there with Ms. Archuleta. The floor is yours. 1 minute, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Debra Archuleta. I'm a currently elected LA Superior Court judge. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I suffered a traumatic brain injury at the age of 19 at the hands of an abusive boyfriend. I had brain surgery at 21. Began working as a legal secretary so I could put myself through college and law school so that I could advocate on behalf of victims of serious and violent crime. I got hired as a law clerk in 1989, and I spent 28 years in the district attorney's office, where I prosecuted thousands of cases. I was elected to the Superior Court, where I continue to serve you in both the criminal court capacity and most recently in the Children's Dependency Foster Care Court. I look forward to tonight's event, and I want to thank you for your interest, your curiosity, and this is the most important race in not only the county, but the state of California, and with potential national consequences. So thank you for being here.
Judge Debra Archuleta, thank you very much for your brevity there. Let's move on to Judge Chemerinsky. Former federal prosecutor, a minute, please. Tell us who you are, why you deserve people's vote.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to our hosts and our moderators so much for putting this event together. It's great to be here tonight. I'm Jeff Chemerinsky. I grew up in the Los Angeles area, and after leaving for college and law school, I moved back to LA with my wife. We're raising our 3 great young children here in the LA area. I love Los Angeles, and I want to see it be the best it possibly can be. I think in many ways we're falling short right now. I've spent the last 9.5 years as a federal prosecutor, as an assistant United States attorney here in Los Angeles. I rose up at the U.S. Attorney's Office and was a deputy chief of the Violent and Organized Crime Section, and then at the time I left, I was chief of the Violent and Organized Crime Section. What that means is that I oversaw all federal prosecutions of violent crime cases organized crime cases and gang cases for the United States government, not just for LA County, but for LA County and 6 surrounding counties for a population of 19 million people. In addition to that, I led the federal robbery program for 7 years and really specialized in the prosecution and leading the prosecution investigation of armed robbery cases. Again, thank you all so much. It's wonderful to be here tonight.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Jeff Chemerinsky, former federal prosecutor.
You already did Jeff. You already did Jeff.
My bad. Jonathan Hatami, LA Deputy DA.
Good job.
You only get one shot at this.
Yeah, that's good. We got 2 weeks left until this election is done. And the first question you need to ask yourself is, where's George Gascón?
Yeah.
Where is he? And I don't expect anything less. He doesn't show up at work, so he's not going to show up here. And he doesn't feel If you want a DA who's going to stand with all of you, who's going to fight for you, who's going to make sure if you're a victim or survivor or a surviving family member, and that you're heard, and that you get justice. If you want a DA who's going to stand up and prosecute crime and make sure people are held accountable and responsible for their crime. If you want a DA who's a father, who's a military veteran, who's a husband to a police officer, if you want a DA who cares about all of you in this community right here, I'm asking all of you to vote for Jonathan Hatami, child abuse prosecutor, for your next Los Angeles County District.
Move on to Jim. I knew him was gonna trouble this.
It rhymes with vote for me for the, not for the Olympics.
Well, good. Defense attorney, and you come to this with experience, not as a prosecutor.
Correct. I have done a little bit of prosecuting in my time, but for over 10 years, I have been a criminal defense attorney. I am in the courts every day, all over the county. I am appointed by the courts to represent indigent defendants and victims and witnesses. My take is a little bit different. I really see what's going on. Gascón, his directives, some of them are very good, but he has not been able to implement them because his line deputies are rogue. They do whatever they want. Nothing has changed. It's basically Jackie Lacey Jr. we're dealing with. And so I'm anti-crime. I've had friends murdered. I've had clients murdered. Obviously, I am the anti-murder candidate. This one seriously, because I want to prevent crime. I want to prevent violent crime, not just throw people away forever. And I want to put money towards preventing violent crime. Excuse me?
Let's not interrupt him. Let's give him a minute.
I'm happy to talk to anyone afterwards. And if you're for equality, justice, constitutional rights, preventing crime and reducing crime, and which will itself help end mass incarceration, then please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And moving on to Lloyd and Masson, he's San Bernardino County Deputy District Attorney. So I assume you live in Los Angeles County, but work in the IE.
That's correct. Good evening, everybody. As the host told you, my name is Lloyd Bobcat Masson. I'm a cold case prosecutor with the largest county in the United States. And for the last few years, I've been bringing hope back to families that given up a long time ago. And I think that's important because right now, LA County needs hope. That somebody can turn this mess around and end this nonsense that's been going on in the streets. The DA sets the tone for law enforcement throughout the entire county. And currently, because of the policies that have been going on from the DA, criminals have been emboldened. And that's why I think voters need to make a bold choice this March 2024. And I represent the boldest choice you can make because I'll tell criminals, as a DA, to their face that playtime is over. I'm dropping the hammer on all property-related offenses, including robbery and hate crimes, until it gets under control. But that's not to say that I'm just an old school, tough-on-crime prosecutor. I heard the public in 2020, and I know they want something different from law enforcement. I'm committed to bringing forward the beginnings of a new justice system that LA County can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Let's move to David S. Milton, retired and the only Republican in this race.
That's correct. Good afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Milton. I'm the most experienced candidate here tonight. I've been a lawyer for 45 years. I devoted 36 years in public service, 24 years as a judge, criminal and civil. I was 12 years as a prosecutor. I've handled some of the most difficult cases that can be handled in any jurisdiction in the country, state or federal. I wrote 2 death penalty bills. I sentenced an individual to death. I was able to get 2 death verdicts as a prosecutor, and I am the only Republican in the race, but I am a person you could say who's fair-minded, law and order. I will do the right thing. I will get that district attorney's office back to its course, which is public safety. That's what I'm about. I'm a strict adherent to the law, and I need your support. I am the district attorney that the criminals fear most. Thank you.
John McKinney is an LA Superior Court judge, and tell us. I'm sorry, my car's got ahead of me. Craig Mitchell, LA Superior Court judge. Please tell us why we want voters to get you a vote.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Craig Mitchell. I've been serving the people of Los Angeles County for the last 45 years. I began my service to this community teaching high school for 17 years. I understand what leads a young person to realize their potential and what leads a young person to engage in gang activity and criminal behavior. Following my teaching career, I was a prosecutor in this county for 11 years. For the last almost 20 years, I have presided over a felony trial court in downtown Los Angeles. Most importantly, for the last 13 years, I have led the Skid Row Running Club. I am on Skid Row 3 days a week. I understand addiction, homelessness, and mental illness from a grassroots perspective. And that is absolutely essential if we are going to address the issues of property crime, violence, because much of it is fueled by people who suffer from addiction or mental illness. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's talk now with John McKinney, an LA Superior Court judge.
Demoted me again. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John McKinney. I'm actually a deputy district attorney, Craig, but I've been such for the last 25 years. I'm running for district attorney now because I've seen what we're going through before. I saw it when I was a child. I was born into a low-income, high-crime neighborhood, actually worse than what we're facing in LA today. I lost my mother at 2 years old. I lost my father at 5 years old. I navigated some very difficult streets that were infested with crack cocaine and drug dealing and all the ancillary crime that comes with that. I've seen criminality firsthand. I've lived through it. I've seen victimization firsthand. I've lived through that. I've taken those lessons with me through my life and brought them here to Los Angeles, where I started working for the district attorney's office. I've been working for the DA's office for 25 years and prosecuting some very serious and violent crime over that period of time. I want to bring all my life lessons, both before the DA's office and what I've learned over the last 25 years, to bear for you as your next district attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Apologies for the demotion, if you're calling that. Maria Ramirez, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I was born and raised in Los Angeles County, in an area of Los Angeles County that experienced a significant amount of gang violence. And it was because of that gang violence and the victimization of my community that I decided to join the district attorney's office more than 33 years ago today. During that time, I was a trial lawyer prosecuting the most violent crimes and major narcotic dealers. And I am the only candidate here who has actually been involved in top management in the district attorney's office, running the DA's office operations on a day-to-day basis. I know what it takes to fix the mess that George Gascón has made since he took office 3 years ago. I know what it's going to take in the hard work and dedication. And if you want someone that is experienced and that can provide strong leadership to the men and women in our office, it is sorely needed. And I will ask for your support today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see that. Please.
This is the most critical election on the ballot. Right now, the district attorney's office is at a pivotal point. We are going to lose this office for a generation if we do not fix it now. I represent a new generation of prosecutors, a group of prosecutors that understand that we do not need to turn back the clock, but also recognizes that the current approach of not holding people accountable does not work. We can hold people accountable. We can reform our system and we can make it better. But it requires leadership. I've shown that leadership in California for the past 10 years as the vice president of the Association of Deputy District Attorneys, both in Sacramento and also before the Board of Supervisors and also the courtrooms of Los Angeles. And I plan to do that as the head of the District Attorney's Office for the next 4 years, the next 8 years. Thank you.
Well, I give you credit for being a minute spot on. Let's talk now, and I want to do this with a few cases that I've covered. Cases that people will remember, that they may have questioned the charging decisions about. Back in May of 2022, comedian Dave Chappelle was tackled on stage at the Hollywood Bowl.
I was at that when it happened.
Well, a lot of people were. I think 22,000 was the head count there. And this was an event that was seen. It was violent by Dave Chappelle's own estimate. He was knocked to the ground. The suspect was armed with what appeared at first to be a gun, but then was a knife concealed to look like a gun. It was very confusing. When this case was brought for a charging decision, the Los Angeles County District Attorney, George Gascón, decided that this was not a felony and referred it to the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office for a charging decision. Chappelle in his Netflix special said that he feared for his life. He ultimately got a restraining order. And I would like to know, Judge Milton, how would you have handled this case?
As a charging deputy or as a judge, that makes it just a difference here. I don't know all the facts.
When you're running for district attorney.
Yes, and I saw some footage about the attack on Mr. Chappelle on stage, and I don't have all the facts except that footage.
Well, what did you see? Did it look like a crime?
Oh, it certainly was a crime. Well, whether or not it's a misdemeanor, I don't know whether Mr. Chappelle was injured or not. I know that it did not appear that he was injured, but from what I could see, it knocked him to the ground. And so the question is whether or not there was force sufficient to cause great bodily injury. Whether or not, in fact, caused great bodily injury, it did not appear to do so. So it's one of those types of crimes that could be what we call a wobbler. You file it as a felony assault. I don't think the weapon was used during the commission of the crime either. I'm not sure whether a weapon of some sort was pulled or not. That would make a big difference on whether or not he used a deadly weapon during the commission of that crime. If that deadly weapon were used, then it would be a felony assault with a deadly weapon.
Was the right decision made to refer to the city attorney?
And again, I don't know. I don't have sufficient facts to make that determination. But if in fact, from what I can see, my recollection is not as clear. I think there was a showing of some type of a weapon, and I don't recall. That's not clear to me. But if there was, I'd say that was not the right decision.
Mr. Siddall.
You know, I think one of the problems that we've had over the past 3 years is that this district attorney has filed cases for the media. And I don't think that cases should be filed for what the media thinks a case is worth. I think things have to be filed on a case-by-case basis. And I'll give you a perfect example about how this has happened here in our office. There was a murder. There were 3 murders that happened in Beverly Hills. The district attorney's office, because of that case, because it was a high media case, actually filed what are called special circumstance murder charges, which means that you get life without possibility of parole in violation of the DA's original policies. There was a case out in Compton where 6 people were murdered, and the district attorney's office refused to file special circumstance murder charges because it was not a media case. So under my administration, whether it is a comedian who is a major celebrity or a
7-year-old child in the city of Compton, they will all be treated the same way, and we will treat every case exactly the same.
I want to quickly go to Ms. Archuleta. You were there. What did you see? What you saw, was it a crime?
Well, of course, I was in the cheap seats, but it certainly looked like an assault to me. I mean, at the time I was there, we didn't know what was happening. We heard on the way out, but clearly there was a man that rushed the stage. He went right for Chappelle. He was armed, from what I understand, with a dangerous and deadly weapon. Based on my 35 years in a courtroom, it looked like a felonious assault to me, and I would have filed it as a felony, particularly in light of the rap sheet that we later heard about this perpetrator.
I wanted to bring it up because so many people saw it soon. We're going to hear more questions from Mia. Let me go back to 2004. There was a case where a gang member killed a police officer, Isaac Espinosa. The San Francisco district attorney at the time was Kamala Harris. She decided not to pursue the death penalty in that case. Even then, the late Senator Dianne Feinstein called for the death penalty to be sought in that case. Do you believe if you were presented with a similar case that you would pursue the death penalty? Mr. Hatami.
So in 2012, the voters of the state of California voted for capital punishment. In 2016, it came before the ballot again, and they voted for capital punishment. So we do have capital punishment here in California. The DA's job is to follow the will of the people. And so the most serious and egregious cases.
Thank you.
The most serious and egregious cases, such as killing or assassinating a police officer, intentionally torturing and murdering a child, going into a church or a synagogue or mosque and killing a large group of people, going into a school and doing that. The DA should charge those special circumstances because those are the law. And what you should do in those cases, if you go through the process, and that case is a case where you have 100% evidence and you've gone through a special circumstance committee, those cases should go before a jury. A jury should get to decide, and a jury should get to decide if that person should be sent to capital punishment, and then a judge gets to make that decision as well. George Gascón has taken that justice away from everybody here in Los Angeles. He's taken it away from the victims. He's taken it away from mothers and fathers who have lost their children. He's taken it away from family members who are family members to police officers who have been murdered and killed. And so my belief is the DA should use discretion to justly and honestly follow and impose the law. And in the state of California, that law is the most egregious cases that shock the conscience, that meet that evidentiary standard of special circumstances. We should seek capital punishment in those type of cases.
Maria Morgan. Who's helped organize this event. She has questions from students, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Before asking our first student posed question, I want to express our gratitude both for myself and on behalf of our entire student body for your presence here today, especially considering the heavy LA rain we're facing. Your willingness to engage in this dialogue speaks volumes about your commitment to our community. And the questions I'll be posing come from students at Harvard Westlake, carefully crafted by juniors and seniors who are eager to delve into the issues at hand. My first question is for Mr. Kapelovitz. You have a defense attorney, or you have been a defense attorney, not a prosecutor. Given your professional experience, what role do you believe the district attorney plays in addressing the complex issue of homelessness? Specifically, what laws related to homelessness do you believe should be enforced more effectively, and how do you plan to approach enforcing them?
All right, thank you. And go Wolverines. All right. So yes, homelessness is a huge problem. It's not easy fixed or be fixed by now. But we need to not criminalize people just for being homeless. We need to get people homes. We need to get people treatment if they're addicted to drugs. And we need to get people mental health treatment. I think we all agree more money has to be spent to create beds for mental health treatment. I'll get Gascón actually often fights against someone who should get mental health treatment into getting mental health treatment. And then if I do get it, over the judge, over their objection, prosecutors, then there won't be enough beds. It'll take months for them to even get a bed. So we really need to expand that. And I deal with people, homeless clients all the time, people addicted to drugs all the time. And that's what I do. I try to get them help. And sometimes, often the prosecution now, Gascón, everyone thinks he's so easy, but his deputies at least fight like heck to not get people in the programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to? Thank you. Yeah.
This subject, the question was, what could the district attorney do about homelessness? Is that correct?
Yes.
Absolutely nothing. In 1963, the United States Supreme Court ruled that homelessness, like being an addict or a person who is mentally ill, that is called a state of being. It is not a crime. And the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that you cannot arrest someone, or it's not a crime to be in such a state. Homelessness. The only time the district attorney or any prosecution agency can have over a homeless person is after they commit a crime. If they don't commit a crime, the district attorney has absolutely no jurisdiction over that person. Now, as a matter of fact, it's what Mayor Bass is struggling with right now. In 1963, the U.S. Supreme Court says if municipalities or any city, state, or any government agency sets forth, say, regulations for like sleeping in parks or on bus benches or in public places, you cannot clear them out. They're violating a law by sleeping in that park, public place, or on a bus bench. They are violating the law. So the district attorney or city attorney would have jurisdiction to enforce those laws. However, the U.S. Supreme Court says you cannot enforce them without providing accommodations for them.
On this very issue, I think I saw hands from Mitchell. Go ahead.
I could not disagree more with Mr. Milton. I work 3 days a week on Skid Row. The criminal justice system needs to understand that 90% of the chronically homeless suffer from addiction. 70% suffer from mental illness. George Gascón refuses to prosecute any drug possession case whatsoever. From the addicts that I work with, from the men and women who I first meet who are addicted and then enter into a treatment program and gain long-term sobriety, they are very candid with me. They will say, Judge Mitchell, unless the court had intervened, unless the court had ordered me into treatment, I would still be living on a tent in the streets, and my life would be debased.
Okay, let me go.
Just briefly, homelessness isn't something that the DAs typically deal with, but I think because there's been so much public outcry about this issue, we need to widen the lane of what DAs typically are involved in. And I'm not for criminalizing the homeless whatsoever, but at the same time, we've got to get this place cleaned up, and what we're doing currently isn't working. We need more rehabilitation, like the judges are saying. That's true. But at the same time, if you're posing risks to our children, if you're doing drugs in parks where they are, if you're doing drugs outside of schools, I'm all for clearing them out compassionately, because I don't want to criminalize it. But at the same time, they're committing drugs if you're in possession of different narcotics and things like that.
Respond to that.
So I also very much disagree with Judge Milton. I think part of our job as prosecutors is to get people out of the system. And part of the way that we can get people out of the system in terms of the unhoused is we can institute and expand homeless courts. And a model has been developed by the Redondo Beach City Attorney. It is a model that works. It has been tested. And what basically it does is it gets people basic services from the very beginning, wraparound services, It's a very collaborative process. They get them everything from identification cards to mental health treatment to supportive housing. And eventually the purpose is to graduate people to permanent housing. We should have a role in this. The current district attorney does not believe we should. I believe we must.
And Mr. McKinney, I apologize, we haven't heard from you.
Thank you. I just want to be heard briefly. I think we have to remember that as we sit here in this dry auditorium, there's 75,000 people who are outside sleeping in the rain tonight. And to say that the district attorney, who is the most consequential elected official in LA County, can't do anything about that is a problem to me, Judge Milton. And Judge Milton is right. Our jurisdiction over people happens when they're either a victim of a crime or an offender. But homeless people are often victims of crime and or offenders. And when that happens, it gives us an opportunity to guide them or leverage them, if you will, through different programs that are available to us into housing. And that's what I would do as district attorney. This is the humanitarian crisis of our time, and it's all hands on deck.
Mr. Milton, quickly, 45 seconds.
Thank you. There are 4 people who say they completely disagree with me, but in fact, they're agreeing with me. The district attorney cannot do a thing for someone, and let me explain. I grew up in a Judeo-Christian family. I'm completely sympathetic with people in homes. I don't like to see people out there in cardboard boxes and tarps and living on the street in cold and rain. It's to me, it's just awful. We can spend all this money for other purposes, but not to address those issues. But everyone here, they say, I completely disagree with Judge Milton, but they're not disagreeing. They're saying that if we can do all these services for them, only if they commit a crime of some sort. This is the only way the district attorney has jurisdiction over anyone who's homeless or an addict or you're mentally ill. That's it. You have read the case of the United States Supreme Court in 1963. I forgot the site. That's it.
45. Thank you. I want to return to
Thank you all so much for your thoughtful responses. I'm gonna pose a second question. My next question is for Ms. Archuleta. How do you intend to support and advocate for victims of crime, especially those from marginalized communities who may face additional challenges in accessing justice?
Well, being a survivor of violent crime myself, I know what it feels like to walk in those shoes. The last 3.5 years I served in the Superior Court before I took an unpaid leave of absence. I was working in the Children's Dependency Court. 90% of the families and the children that came before me were from communities of color. I was removing 10 to 15 babies a week at birth from their mother because these babies were born newborn with methamphetamine and fentanyl in their system. I'm not going to go into the gory details of how these young, beautiful lives started and how they looked after a few years in foster care. I went to over 150 parole board hearings throughout the state of California when I was a deputy district attorney. I'd go to such garden spots as Folsom, San Quentin, Vacaville, Atascadero. I'd sit in a very small room with the inmate, a guard or two, his lawyer, and myself. And why would I do that? Because I wanted to keep the violent and serious repeat offenders, murderers, and sexual predators off the streets and locked up to protect all of you. Part of the reason I'm in this race is that a father of a woman who's murdered 16 years ago, that's right, 1-6. You might not even been born yet, Mia. His only daughter was murdered. I handled the prosecution of that case. He called me last year and said, Judge Archuleta, I know there's not much you can do for me, but my daughter's killer's parole board hearing's coming up and George Gascón refuses to send somebody from your office. What can I do about that? I said, what can I do about that is I can get off the bench and I can run for district attorney, and I will guarantee you when I'm elected, I will personally appear at your daughter's killer's parole.
Thank you. Move on to what could become a reality, depending on the changing political climate. Let's, for sake of discussion here, say if abortion were to become legal, rather illegal due to executive order under a future presidency, would you prosecute somebody for having that procedure here in Los Angeles County? And I posed that question to Mr. Hatami.
No. Hope that answered that question.
Mr. Milton.
Well, abortion is one of those hot button issues, like the death penalty is a hot button issue. If you're telling me that the death penalty is a law and it came before you and you're the district attorney, you would not, like Gascón, prosecute or handle cases with the death penalty, you're not obeying the law. And your hypothetical is if abortion is illegal in California and someone's guilty of doing that, violating the law, and Mr. Tommy says he won't follow that law. Well, if his personal convictions are such that he can't follow the law, he should not be the district attorney. You must be prepared to follow whatever the law is in this state.
Mr. Siddall.
Actually, prosecutors have discretion. That's part of our job, is to decide when we charge cases, how we charge cases. So no, I would not prosecute a woman for exercising her right to choose, her right to medical assistance. No, I wouldn't do that.
I definitely would not charge women who exercise their right to choose.
Yeah, let me say that I wouldn't charge women or anybody else who might be involved in assisting them with an abortion, but not on the grounds that some of the other people said. While I agree with Judge Milton that it is the DA's job to enforce the law, assuming that it's constitutional, I don't agree that the DA has discretion to ignore law. I wouldn't prosecute it on the grounds that it's obviously unconstitutional. I think any such law would be. But also, if it shocks the conscience, as it would mine, I'd rather step down from the office than prosecute a crime like that against women or the doctors who helped them.
I can't imagine under any circumstances that I would prosecute a woman or someone else who's exercising their right to their own personal sovereignty over their body, making their own medical decisions. I can't imagine a more improper governmental intrusion than that. So, no.
Yes, of course, I would never charge that also because it's unconstitutional. And also, let's talk about the will of the people. So let's say that did happen somehow, some president said that. I'm getting elected in LA County. The will of the people most likely would not want to prosecute someone like that. Just like the will of the people don't want the death penalty in LA County. They voted against it. The moratorium is heavily in LA County in favor of the moratorium. So we're getting elected in LA County. Of course, we follow the laws of California, but there's immense discretion in the prosecutor's office. And Mr. Siddall, I believe, sued Gascón, saying he, before using his discretion as to 3 strikes, and actually paid Hochman, I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, and paid. Also.
Okay, so I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna let you go, Mr. Siddall, before I wrap on this.
So the difference is that 3 strikes is a alternative sentencing mechanism that is mandatory by state law. It is not discretionary.
Semantic.
No, it's not. No, and clearly this is the problem for a defense attorney running for district attorney. He doesn't understand our job. He doesn't understand what we don't want this mess again, okay? We only have someone who doesn't understand our office, running our office. We don't need someone from outside of our office doing the exact same things.
Okay, finally, this, Mr. Kapelovitz.
Yes, I do understand the office. I actually work with deputy district attorneys probably more every day than anyone on this stage combined. I've done more trials than anyone on the stage combined since Gascón's taken office. I know what happens. California Supreme Court's actually taken up that 3 strikes issue, so you may or may not be right according to the law. But even if it is, there's always been discretion. Even under Jackie Lacey, they didn't file it every single time, and they often strike the strike in settling cases. So don't tell me there's no discretion. There is discretion. Thank you.
I need to respond to that because that was a direct. Okay, sir,
Go ahead for 45 seconds.
yes, Mr. Hatami, Mr. Siddall, they're absolutely wrong to say the district attorney has discretion. Your question was if it were the law to have an abortion, if you did it, if you violate the law, and he said they're saying there's discretion. There's not. The discretion is if a crime can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, you must file it. It's not, it's objective. It's not subjective. Subjective is, well, it can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but I don't like it. No, they're absolutely wrong on that. If it can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, you must file the charge.
That is absolutely wrong. That's not what the decision of the way the state of California says, Mr. Milton. So if you want, you may want to actually check your authority before you make such outrageous claims.
It's not outrageous. You're making the outrageous. I'm surprised that you're not more educated on this. And the president, you have to be involved.
Okay, let's move on here. We can agree to disagree, I think, maybe. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that surprised me as a reporter. I was covering a press conference with District Attorney George Gascón, and it was about the Organized Retail Crime Task Force. And in that, there was the announcement that there were more than 450 arrests made by LA County Sheriff's Department as part of the task force. In addition to that, more than 200 arrests for people who LAPD picked up as part of the task force. It's a multi-agency thing, but those are the two main police departments. Of those cases, District Attorney George Gascón said he had only filed charges he believed on about 200 cases. So I'm going to ask all of you this, but let's start with Mr. Mitchell. Does that seem low? Does that number seem low when police departments bring in more than 600 cases and only 200 are charged?
It seems terribly low. And I was asked this question at a earlier candidates forum. I'm the only person on this stage who presides over a felony courtroom. In the last 3 years, downtown Los Angeles, there has not been a single case of retail theft brought into my courtroom. That is indicative of George Gascón dropping the ball with respect to a crime that leaves the vast majority of Angelenos feeling unsafe to go out and conduct their lives in the way that they should.
All right, Mr. McKinney.
Yes, it does seem low.
What would be an appropriate ratio?
Well, it seems low, but I'll tell you, it's without seeing the cases and know what the evidence is and what can be proven, it's kind of hard to know. But before Gascón, we had a felony rejection rate in the DA's office of about 25% of the cases that were brought to us. So based on the numbers you presented, that would be a 66% rejection rate. And that's why I said filing 200 out of 600 seems low based on historical numbers. But, you know, it's a difficult question for lawyers to answer because everybody up here is going to tell you that we will never presume that a case is fileable until we see it, we see the evidence, we know what can be proven and what can't be proven, and we also consider what defenses might be available to a defendant.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez.
Thank you. Let me tell you what is going on in the district attorney's office and why you are dissatisfied with that number.
Well, I'm not dissatisfied with it.
You should be.
As a reporter, though, it stood out to me as a very low ratio.
Number one, George Gascón did not immediately address the issue of retail theft as it was becoming a significant crisis in Los Angeles County. That's number one. He was not part of the original task force. He did not take part in the media of the original task force for the smash and grabs. So he did not address it immediately as he should have. Number two, he is currently facing a significant backlog of cases being ready to be filed and presented to our office in tens of thousands of cases that have not been reviewed by our deputies. There are a lot of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is that he decided to reorganize the office and decentralize the filing, or centralize the filing, excuse me, which created the significant backlog of over 13,000 cases. He has not been able to catch up, and that is why you're seeing the significant reduction in the filing that we're experiencing. And that has to do with all of the staffing that is leaving our office. We cannot do our basic job of filing cases, especially of those cases that are creating a significant problem for our communities, like the smash and get grabs and retail theft. It is a failure on George Gascon's part, and the public has to know that.
Mr. Hatami.
I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, why wasn't George Gascón even invited to that task force that was organized by the mayor and by other people in this community? They didn't invite him because he wasn't doing his job, which is prosecuting those cases. Many of those cases now are prosecuted by the feds. That's why we don't prosecute those cases, because George Gascón doesn't want to do that. So the federal government now is prosecuting many of those cases. You know, why have we brought the CHP in for so many of these cases? Because you have people like George Gascón, other DAs like him, one up in Alameda County, who refuses to prosecute these type of cases. We are the retail theft capital of America, and we've been that under George Gascón. And so clearly he's not doing his job. He isn't here to answer any of these questions. He's not at the task force because they didn't invite him, and he's not charging crimes appropriately. But part of it is also, he's never been a prosecutor. He's never prosecuted any case. So he has no clue how to file cases. He has no clue how to leave the office, and he has no clue how to help our community become safer. He also doesn't think business owners are actually victims, and they are. Many business owners are being victimized. Many of our business owners are members of the immigrant community, and they've come here to make a better living for their family and for their children. And many of them are now leaving because insurance carriers are not covering them, because so many people commit theft over and over again. And so clearly, everybody out here needs to realize one thing. You all need to vote out George Gascón. I don't care who you vote for, just don't vote for George.
The voters were undecided.
Well, they get decided.
Our small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and they're also the backbone of our community. And these small businesses right now are being ransacked by thieves, and there's no control over this. And this is a problem with not just George Gascón's leadership, but it also requires reform as it relates to Prop 47. There has to be an answer to the repeat offender who consistently goes in and is a thief to the small business where they can't make their own margins. And Mr. Hatami's right. They can't even afford insurance at this point. Insurance rates have skyrocketed. The deductible has skyrocketed. These small businesses are being destroyed because of the theft that is going unchecked. And you know what's proof in terms of eating the pudding about George Gascón's utter incompetence as to this issue? The fact that he failed to secure $2 million in state funding to combat retail theft, organized retail theft, just was missing at the switch. Didn't actually have grant writers writing grants, and then had the audacity when I called him out on it to say we weren't eligible for it, besides the fact that the grant was actually called the Vertical Prosecution Grant for Retail Theft. He actually had the call to say we weren't eligible. He was eligible, and other district attorney offices around the state applied and got the money because they were eligible as well.
I want to ask a question of Mr. McKinney.
Well, can Judge Archuleta and Mr. Chemerinsky get a chance to answer
Please.
the question?
Thanks.
So first, organized retail theft is a major problem. Shoplifting is a huge problem right now in our county, and it has to be a major priority for our district attorney. It hasn't been that. I led the federal robbery program for 7 years. I really specialized in smash and grab robbery cases, organized robbery crews, armed robbery crews. I personally prosecuted dozens of those cases. I've worked with law enforcement, both line law enforcement officers and supervisors throughout law enforcement to really go after organized retail theft crews. It needs to be a priority from day one. Small businesses are hurting right now throughout our communities. I've met with a number of small business owners, and I've heard from them the pain that they're feeling as a result of these crimes. On day one, as district attorney, I'll make sure that there are consequences for people who steal. It has to be a major priority for the district attorney.
Okay. All of you might have something to say on this. You've raised. Okay, Judge, please. I got a lot of you to keep track of.
Should I call for order in the court? George Gascón left $2 million on the table for the task force that he chose not to participate in because ideologically, he doesn't give a rat's you know what about the small immigrant business owners who are struggling every day to make donuts and baked goods and dry clean our clothes and do all the things that they do to work so hard to achieve the American dream. It's happening in my community and it's happening in your community. We also have a member who is in management on this stage, and yet there are over 14,000 unfiled cases in the district attorney's office. There are several members of the district attorney's office here tonight, all nice quality people. But what in the heck are they doing about this backlog of cases? Because it's not backlogs of cases, ladies and gentlemen. These are victims of crimes. That's the question that I would have on this issue, and that's my different take that I bring to this. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be heard. I'm grateful. Thank you.
I think all of you will have an opinion on. With all of the horrendous things you guys have given as an assessment of George Gascón and his leadership, why have the recalls against him failed? I'm going to just take it for I'm going to go get Mr. Siddall.
I don't know why they failed, but I'll tell you this: he keeps taking credit for their failure, and he deserves zero credit for it whatsoever. It's not like the people of Los Angeles County are saying you're doing such a wonderful job. We're not going to support a recall. I think if a recall got onto the ballot, George Gascón would be recalled in a heartbeat.
Well, there's a bunch of rumors as to why the recalls did not work. Some of them having to do with mismanagement of money, others having to do with shenanigans going on over at the Registrar Recorder's office. And let's be real, George Gascón still has a significant amount of support. Please be aware of that. For some reason, he has pulled the shade over a lot of people. And that is why it is so important to get him out in this election. We need him gone.
Mr. McKinney.
I think I have to point out, Mr. Siddall, that you did not support the first recall. That's right, George Gascón.
That is absolutely correct.
I did. He was in. You can explain when I'm done. It was obvious on the day that he issued those directives that he was going to be a failure. So I don't know why anybody would have waited to see what happened. We all knew what was going to happen, and now we're living it. The second recall, I think, was a robust effort, but there were questions about whether it was well funded from the beginning that might have hampered its success. There's also questions about whether the registrar recorder was an honest broker in counting the signatures.
Are you questioning the election?
No, I'm not questioning the election because I don't have enough evidence of wrongdoing, but we did turn in a lot of signatures. And I say we because I supported both recalls. I was out making speeches. I was out collecting signatures. And many of us up here did our part. But I think Maria said something that's very important. I keep hearing this mantra, anybody but Gascón. And I think it's luring people into a sense of belief that Gascón is defeated. Do not count him out. He is not defeated. He is vulnerable, but he is not defeated. There were a lot of people who walked away from those petitions. There were a lot of people like Eric in the first recall who wouldn't sign it. So don't count him out. He's gotten a lot of Democratic endorsements. He's got a lot of union support. It's going to take a very formidable candidate to beat him in November. It's going to take somebody that the 70% of registered voters who are Democrats and they trend progressive, we got to run somebody that they want to vote for, somebody that they're inspired by, and somebody that they're believing. People don't go to the polls just to vote against somebody. They go to vote for somebody. And I ask you, those of you who haven't made up your minds yet tonight, as you look at these candidates, because this isn't about Gascón tonight. This is about us. Think about who you like, who shares your values, and who will beat Gascón one-on-one.
Okay, Mr. McKinney, I think you can go.
Well, I didn't support the first recall because it started 2 weeks after George Gascón was elected, and elections do have consequences. Let me tell you what I did do. Instead of going around and making speeches with a bunch of right-wing recall Republicans, what I did was instead, I actually...
Let's give him a Let's give him a moment to explain his position.
I wasn't making speeches with Barry Allen, Mr. McKinney, like you were. So this is why I did what I did. This is what I did. Okay? Instead of giving speeches with Larry Elder like Mr. McKinney did, what I did was I organized an actual effort to stop George Gascón in the courts. And we actually got results done. This is the difference between me and a lot of the other candidates. Some candidates know how to speak, and they speak a lot. There are other candidates who actually do and take action. And I took action, actually got an injunction against George Gascón, got real results.
10 seconds.
Mr. Siddall, on behalf of our union, was part of bringing a number of lawsuits against Mr. Gascón. He beat them on every single issue they sued him on, but one that's still pending before the Supreme
I
Court.
must move on again. The question is, with all the bad things said about Mr. Gascón, why have recalls failed? Mr. Mitchell.
As a sitting Superior Court judge, during the recall, I am precluded by the canon of ethics to get involved. Okay, so my vantage point is very limited in this regard.
Shall we move on?
Pardon me?
Shall we move on?
I will simply say, did I sign the petition to recall him as a private citizen? Yes, I did.
Well, I signed the petition as well. I contributed money to the recall as well.
You're retired.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm not retired. I'm a private judge now. I do the arbitration mediations, all civil matters right now. But all the things, it's speculative as to why 20, 30, I don't remember, thousands of signatures were disqualified by the
Users trust in the process.
I have a question about why those signatures were not counted.
Greg, I think this touches upon what McKinney was talking about, which is that Gascón is still a formidable opponent. He's got power behind him. So when you try to take him out, you got to make sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed. And the registrar noticed that not enough signatures qualified. But I think this really touches on 3 strikes too, because he's had 2 unsuccessful recall attempts. Now he's up for re-election. And you as the voters, you guys need to knock him out. 3 strikes is enough. He's got to be done. And I want to touch on one more thing, Greg. There was a dig at some of the LADAs here, and I don't think that's fair. All these individuals here are brave. Siddall, Ramirez, McKinney, Hatami, they're standing up to their boss right now, and they're putting their careers on the line. And their hands are tied. That was their fault is not true whatsoever. But, however, as a 4th-generation Angelino, I'm telling you, what McKinney said is true. We need somebody that's not going to get tripped up in politics. I'm the only candidate up here that has no political affiliation whatsoever. I don't play for red team or blue team, and that means I can play for LA County's team only, and I'm seeking your vote in 2020.
Yes.
this is gonna sound a little harsh, but recalls are for crybaby losers who don't believe in democracy. Otherwise, vote the bum out when the next election is. Recall elections, this is money that could go to preventing crime. Getting the recall on the ballot cost a fortune. That's money that could have gone to preventing crime. And these election deniers, they say, oh, we're not really election deniers, but yeah, there's questions. Come on, please don't storm the Capitol or the Register.
Let's move to Mr. Hatami, please. Same question.
Many of the victims who are here and their family members, they were called by George Gascón basically on December 7th, 2020. These are individuals they lost their children. Their children were murdered. And they were called, and George Gascón ordered prosecutors to remove allegations and enhancements on their case. And these were cases that were around for years. And somebody had to call them and say, I'm sorry, I know your son was murdered, but we're removing all these allegations and enhancements on their cases. And that happened a lot. So many of these victims and family members rallied together to try to get George Gascón out. And George Gascón was not doing his job, no matter what anybody says. And he had abandoned all of them. And no matter what anybody thinks, that isn't right for a sitting district attorney.
Mr. Chairman.
And so I'm not done. We're going to move to, I'm not done. And so I'm going to, thank you. You all have a chance to recall George Gascón, and that's on March the 5th, 2024.
That was 19 seconds, which is okay. Sorry. All right, Mr. Chemerinsky.
Thank you. I was a federal prosecutor working at the United States Attorney's Office. I don't know why the recall failed. I'm not going to speculate. But I do think it's important that we replace George Gascón with the right person. I think the District Attorney's Office badly needs new leadership and new accountability. There have been a number of really big failures by the current District Attorney. Under his leadership, the DA's office has accumulated more than 15 lawsuits based on the DA's employment practices, based on his retaliation against his own employees. The first of those went to a jury, and a jury awarded $1.5 million in damages that will be paid out of taxpayer money now. Another example, just a few weeks ago, there was a big story about a $5 million civil rights settlement based on a case that was filed by the DA's office. The case was filed based on right-wing conspiracy theories. George Gascón held a press conference touting election denial conspiracy theories. A month after the case was filed, the case was dismissed, and it now will, based on the civil rights lawsuit, cost taxpayers $5 million. That's just one of the many examples of his failures of leadership. A $5 million civil rights settlement paid out of taxpayer money based on his failures in leadership in a case based on right-wing election denial theories.
As a reporter, I want to point out I covered that case, went for follow-up as to why it was denied, calls were not returned. Judge Archuleta.
Thank you. I'm not going to look back as to why the recall failed because we're all running in this race because I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm looking forward. As a private citizen, I did sign the petition, although as a sitting LA Superior Court judge, like my fellow colleague, Judge Mitchell, I could not get involved. One of the things that was mentioned by one of my fellow candidates is who is the most electable to take out George Gascón. Rick Caruso paid to have a poll done, and this week the results were released to the public.
Bias.
Well, everybody's got their opinion, but that's because I've been in this race for 4 months, and I polled the highest behind George Gascón. So whether you think that Rick Caruso paid for a biased poll or not, whether you like the fact that everybody was included or not, that is the most recent poll. Whether you like it or not, that is the most recent poll. And if you look at the results, they're all over everyone's accounts because everyone's been posting them. Additionally, there's been many significant endorsements made this week. Look at the websites, be an informed and engaged voter. Let's look forward and forget what happened with the recall because it's irrelevant and doesn't matter.
And before we get to closing arguments, if you will, let's take one more question from Media Morgan.
Okay, once again, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here and making time out of your clearly very busy schedules to come and talk to us all today. For the final question, Mr. Chemerinsky, what steps will you take to improve trust and cooperation between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve, especially neighborhoods with historically strained relationships with the police?
It's a good question. Let's see everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. I think building trust between the DA's office and law enforcement is extremely important. It will be a day one priority for my district attorney's office. I saw at the United States Attorney's Office as a prosecutor and as chief of the Violent and Organized Crime section that so many within law enforcement had lost confidence and trust with the DA's office. What I saw over the last few years was that law enforcement partners would more and more try to bring me their cases rather than go to the DA's office because they didn't have a good partner with the DA's office. So step one is the DA's office on day one. As district attorney, I will rebuild trust with law enforcement. I also believe that building trust with communities is extremely important, and I'll be active in doing exactly that. I believe that public safety is based on a partnership between law enforcement and the community, and good policing is absolutely vital to that partnership. The district attorney, as the leader of the criminal justice system, needs to be active in communities, making sure that they have a voice, and the district attorney has their back.
Let's go to Judge Archuleta, and then we'll go to Hatami, work our way down. Please.
I've already been in touch with many of the top law enforcement agencies in and around the county. I've also reached out to many community leaders because to solve the problems that are facing the residents of LA County, it's going to take more than just a strong leadership individual leading the district attorney's office. It's going to take collaboration, cooperation, not only with law enforcement, but with many of the stakeholders within our community by having community engagement. I plan when I'm elected to have monthly roundtable meetings in the district attorney's office with Subway sandwiches and Diet Cokes, with a variety of stakeholders coming in to discuss the pressing issues that are involving our community. That means a variety of individuals from all over LA County that have interest in making LA safer for all of us, not just for law enforcement, not just for this group or that group, but for all of us, the concerned citizens of LA County.
Mr. Hatami.
I'm supported by 19 police officer associations. Including most recently the school police, the LA PPL, the Beverly Hills POA, the El Monte POA. Numerous police officers and police departments have their trust that I would be a good DA and will work with them and will make sure that our community is safe. My wife is also a 16-year veteran of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department as a detective. She's also the mother of my children. Also, what some people don't know is in 2010, a person ran over my mom. That person was drunk, and he was an off-duty LAPD officer. And our office prosecuted that case, and he only got 1 year. And so I've been on both sides. So I realize that we need to work with our police. We need to collaborate with them. We need to support them. We also need to let the community know anybody who commits a crime, no matter if you're a police officer or not, a politician or not, you're going to be held accountable just like everyone else. And the police officers know that. They have their faith in me, and they believe I could turn this around and bring public safety back to Los Angeles. Thank you.
Yeah, for one reason that Gascón, when he came in and rubbed everyone the wrong way, is he didn't meet with anybody. He didn't meet with law enforcement. He didn't meet with his own deputies. He didn't meet with defense counsel. He didn't meet with judges. He just came in, laid down these directives. A lot of them were good, but he just, the way he did it, not me. And so I'm willing to talk to any law enforcement, anytime. My phone number's all over the place. I talk to them every day in court. I talk to them when I visit people in jail. I like them. I'm friendly with them. They're friendly with me. I don't have the union support. That's true. But I do have the investigators who have supported me, who are on the panel. who are almost all veteran detectives and officers, and they often are very critical of some of these police departments not doing correct investigations. And also, we do need to hold everyone accountable, and even the prosecution needs to be held accountable. We have immunity. Judges have immunity. Police have qualified immunity. We should get rid of this immunity. We should be held accountable. If we do something wrong, we need to be held accountable. And also, we need more transparency. Right now, we have to jump through so many hoops, the prosecutors and the defense, to get information about complaints about officers. It's because the unions have captured the legislators. We need to undo that so we can get this information, and then we can make proper decisions as prosecutors whether to file some cases when these officers have engaged in misconduct involving dishonesty.
Mr. Masson.
Greg, I think what you're talking about strikes at the heart of what makes Gascón so vulnerable. Is that his justice partners don't want to work with them at all. They don't trust them. So I think we need a candidate that can get law enforcement's trust back. I'm the only candidate up here that's currently embedded with the law enforcement unit. As a previous deputy DA in the hardcore gang unit, I also been on multiple task force. So I know how to make our justice partners trust someone, to be able to look at somebody that they can work with. But I think one of the key things we need to do is we need to seize the narrative back. We need to get rid of this us versus them mentality between the public and law enforcement and begin to be able to show the public the good work that we do so that we can recruit from marginalized communities and get Los Angeles County to trust our law enforcement apparatus again.
Mr. Milton.
I think it's actually absolutely critical that the relationship between law enforcement and the district attorney's office be a strong, good working relationship. Now, in my experience as a former DA, deputy DA, I worked in crimes against the police officer section, the career criminal division, the hardcore gang division. In the handling of those matters, in those roles, I worked with sheriff, OSS, sheriff, SCB, sheriff, homicide, LAP, crash, LAP, homicide. I think these law enforcement agencies countywide realize that Gascón is an aberration and that once he's gone, that they can begin to file their cases as they ought to be able to.
Mr. Mitchell.
One thing I can certainly assure the public, I am not going to appoint as my chief of staff someone who characterizes law enforcement in the terms that Tiffany Blacknell uses. It is an outrage. She has categorically expressed her disdain, her disgust with law enforcement. That is not an effective way for the chief prosecutor in Los Angeles to partner with the line officers who are the first responders to people who need justice in their community. They are not barbarians. The vast majority of police officers put on that badge because they want to protect the public. And that is something that police officers know that I support. Good officers, good police work. They've seen what I've done in my courtroom. They've seen what I've done as a prosecutor. I enjoy their support.
And Mr. McKinney.
You know, I believe there are two police officers who would be at home tucking their children in tonight if it weren't for George Gascón's policies. Officers Paredes and Santana of the El Monte Police Department lost their lives because George Gascón didn't do his job. Police officers feel like there's a target on their back. We have a DA who uses them as a scapegoat whenever he gets himself into trouble, and that's not right. It's chilling them from doing their jobs. They're afraid now to engage in proactive policing because they wonder if they're the ones who are going to be on trial if something were to go wrong. To rebuild that trust and confidence, police officers have to believe that their work has meaning again, that the DA is going to do something more than chunk their cases in the trash. They have to believe that the system isn't going to result in a criminal laughing at them while they're filling out their reports because he knows he's going to be back on the street before the officer completes his report. And we need a strong DA who's going to make sure that those things don't happen.
There is no question that the relationship between law enforcement and our office has been destroyed. And it has been destroyed by George Gascón. There's no question about that. I have been in the office for 33 years. And in those 33 years, I have formed and maintained strong relationships with our law enforcement partners because it is critical to have their support as well as they have our support if we're going to do the job of keeping our community safe. As I went around talking to the various law enforcement agencies and associations and police chiefs, the one thing that they complained about more often than not was that George Gascón did not even involve them in discussions about the policies that he put forth. And these were policies that were going to directly affect the law enforcement's work on the streets, and they were not made part of the solution. With me, I will build on the strong relationships that I have built over 33 years, and I will join my partners in law enforcement to move forward in our office and keep our community safe.
Lastly, with this family, Mr. Siddall.
For 17 years, both as a deputy district attorney and as a special assistant United States attorney, I've worked with every major law enforcement agency in this country, both federal, state, and county. During that time, we have done some amazing work in terms of safeguarding the community, taking down gangs, and most recently, I resurrected a case, a 40-year-old case of the murder of Officer Paul Verna, who was murdered in 1983, and we recently tried and convicted on August the 25th of 2023. Law enforcement has to know that they have a reliable partner in the district attorney's office. I will be that reliable partner. One thing that we also have to understand is that the district attorney right now, George Gascón, uses officers as a political football. Cases are being filed against police officers and they are being dismissed by judges because there is no evidence on these cases. We are basically forcing police in some cases. In one instance, an officer was charged with killing a motorist and only received 30 days in the county jail as a probationary sentence. That wasn't because it was a good case. It was because it was a politically filed case and they had a tremendous amount of leverage over that deputy, and they basically forced a plea. That is political prosecution. It will end under my watch. We will only have the best and most capable in the division that oversees cases involving police officers.
Okay, I want to end with just one question. I think we can do this with a hand raise, and then we're going to end with something we weren't planning. We got a little extra time, but I think it's very important. Show of hands, is Joe Biden, I ask this of everybody who's running for public office, is Joe Biden the legitimately elected president of the United States of America? So that if you raise your hand, you believe he's the legitimately elected president of the United States of America. So, is that two? Okay, I think we saw what we saw. Now, I'll take time for a question from a crime victim who would like to speak with all of you about her experience and how she would like change in the future.
Hello. So my question is, so again, I want to remind you guys, my name is Courtney Bridges. I'm the mother of Tylisha Thomas, who was killed December 1st, 2020 at Venice Beach on the boardwalk. So my question is for all of you guys, and just real quick, I don't need no whole song and dance, just answer the question real short to the point. So for gang enhancements, how would you guys handle that? For gang members where the enhancements have been taken away, for cases like Emma's, for my case, there's a gang member, my daughter's case, for a lot of families, there are gang members on their cases. How would you guys handle that? Really quick, 20 seconds, real quick, each person.
Nice to see you again. Gang enhancements, yes. Gun enhancements, yes. Bail, yes. Hate crime enhancements, yes. Elder abuse crime enhancements, yes. The enhancements that need to be followed, great bodily injury enhancements, yes. We need to follow the law.
Yes, I'm so deeply sorry for your loss. I won't have any categorical rules when it comes to enhancements. I'll take them on a case-by-case basis with guidance and guidelines for my line prosecutors to apply. I believe that's what justice requires, and based on the facts, we'll apply the appropriate enhancements.
Any gang member who murders somebody and uses a gun, we're charging the gang enhancement, we're charging the gun enhancement. You know that, Portland, you know that, Emma, and we will do that. Thank you.
Most gang enhancement charges are inherently racist. What's going on? In LA County, 99% of gang allegations are against people of color. When white people storm the Capitol or do other crimes.
LA County's people of color. LA County's people of color.
That's true.
Of course it's going to happen to LA people of color.
And first of all, also, obviously, losing a loved one's horrible. I would personally probably want to kill the person myself, and I'm against the death penalty. But we have laws, and that's the case. I think is the one I'm thinking about. That Gascón has harmed that case by victimizing another victim related to that case. And that's one reason I ran. He had him thrown in jail for missing one day in court. And so I represent victims. I'm the only one here by appointed by the court to represent victims to protect their rights.
Stop it. Stop.
Mr. Masson.
If the evidence is there, I'm absolutely filing them. And it's ridiculous that you're in that position. Gang members have been making out big under Gascón. They've been toasting him in videos that we've seen. And I'm going to say clearly to your face, playtime's over.
When I mentioned that I wrote 2 death penalty bills, they were both for gang prosecutions. One was a drive-by shooting resulting in murder. The second one was shooting into an inhabited dwelling, resulting in murder. I'm serious about gang members, gang crimes. They wreak havoc in this county, and I will treat them and file enhancements that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and I will seek the maximum punishment.
Mr. Mitchell.
Gangs are some of the most insidious, destructive elements in our community. We need to use every tool possible to address the destruction that they wreak. I would file gang enhancements when it is appropriate. And obviously, ma'am, I read the newspapers about your daughter's death. I'm deeply sorry. And in the case involving your daughter's death, gang enhancements, absolutely.
Mr. McKinney.
I want to echo Judge Mitchell's condolences for the loss of your daughter. I spent 6 years in the hardcore gang division. I'm very familiar with the enhancement statute. The moment I drop my right hand after being sworn in, you will have complaints being amended all over the county of Los Angeles to add the gang enhancement on every case in which it applies.
Maria.
The legislature has given us a whole tool chest of laws and enhancements to use to address the very serious problems affecting our communities. And I will definitely use the gang enhancement when appropriate and all other enhancements. It is our duty to follow the law so that we protect the victims in our community, and I'm so sorry for your loss.
Siddall.
Well, you and I spoke at the very beginning of all this process. And so I think you know where my heart is. I will absolutely file gang enhancements when they are appropriate. And the other thing I will promise you is you will no longer have to have a lawyer who's advocating for your rights outside of this office. We will advocate for your rights and your loved ones. We are going to, my good friend Kathy Katie has been doing a lot of this work. We're gonna put Kathy Katie in retirement. We're actually gonna start doing our job, and we're gonna start standing up for victims here in Los Angeles County again.
Yeah, right now I did something remarkable. I don't know if I've ever been able to say this. A 90-minute debate ends at 90 minutes. Right on time. So thank you to all of our candidates and here at Harvard.
Just a few more things real quick before we do rep. We're going to give you a minute each. I told you each you're going to do a closing, so let's give you each a minute, and then I'm going to bring Councilwoman Park up one more time. I just want to say thank you all for running. I know the incredible amount of work and energy that you put into these races, so thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all for educating our voters. It's incredibly important, and also just the time that you put into this. So we'll just start from left to right, and we'll give you 1 minute to wrap.
The last, since I got to start first.
We did say that.
I was listening. So am I going last since I have to start first? I thought Mr. Siddall was going to go first.
We did say we would do reverse alphabetical.
Okay, we did.
We also gave you a deadline of yesterday to RSVP. I mean, 2 minutes ago. I let you know.
Like I said, this is a critical election, and you need someone with a deep institutional knowledge about how the system works. You need someone with the prosecutorial experience, which I have, but you also need something else. You need someone with the political and policy experience. For the past 10 years, I have been an ardent advocate in terms of public safety, both before Sacramento, before our state legislature, and also before the Board of Supervisors, advocating for your safety. This is a critical election. It is going to require the rebuilding of the office. We have about 745 prosecutors. We need 1,100. We need to reestablish our trust with law enforcement and the community. And we need someone with that deep institutional knowledge to be able to actually get the job done. You need a doer, not someone who just talks a lot.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. You are going to need a strong leader in the district attorney's office to fix the mess that George Gascón has made. And I am ready to be that leader. I'm the only candidate that has trial experience, dealing with victims of crime on a daily basis, and also top management experience, running the office and operations and dealing with budget and dealing with the Board of Supervisors and CEO's office. The office has been destroyed in the last 3 years, and we need a strong leader that is going to build it back up. And the reason that Ms. Archuleta does not know why we can't fix things is because she has not been there. I have been there for 33 years. I never left. I do not want to leave, and I want to be your leader in the office to keep the community safe. Thank you very much.
You are electing a leader in this election. I have 25 years of experience in the district attorney's office. I've prosecuted every manner of violent crime there is. I have the respect of the men and women who work in the DA's office. A plebiscite was held recently in which over 500 members of our office were asked, who would you like to see the next DA be? 64.7% of them voted for me to be the next district attorney. That's the best endorsement any candidate in this race could have, because it comes from the women and men who know us the best. They know what leadership looks like, and they know what the job is. So if you're undecided and you have any doubt about who up here could really hit the ground on day one with a reinvigorated office and members of the office who are excited to go back to work for you, look to the men and women in the DA's office and who they want to see lead them. Thank you.
My concern about tonight's forum is we were asked a question about abortion. We were asked a question about the death penalty. Those are not issues realistically that ought to be addressed in a very limited time frame. We did not discuss no cash bail.
Yeah.
We did not discuss Prop 47. We did not discuss in any meaningful way the lack of enhancements and the fact that Gascón is not alleging them. There's so many critical issues that need to be addressed by the next district attorney, And I submit to you that my 45 years of experience with my sleeves rolled up and my 20 years of experience on the bench gives me the objectivity and the calm resolve to address these issues as they need to be addressed. Thank you.
All 10 candidates here have been advocates. Only 3 have been more than just advocates. 7 have only been advocates, 6 advocates for the district attorney, and 1 defense advocate. The 3 judges here, we've been not only advocates for the district attorney, but we have the judicial perspective. That's important. Judicial perspective. We're neutral, detached magistrates, dispassionate, who can look at cases from all sides based on our experience. Now, of the 3 judges who've also been former deputy DAs, who's the most qualified? I submit to you, I am. Judge Archuleta, fine woman, and fine judge, I should say, but she doesn't have near the experience that I have. Judge Mitchell, he used to come to my courtroom when he was a deputy DA and say, Judge, would you support my candidacy for becoming a judge? And I liked the way he put on his cases, so I supported him when he sought a judicial appointment. And when he ran for judge, I supported him each time because I thought he would be a fine judge. That being said, Judge Archuleta is a fine judge. Judge Mitchell is a fine judge, and I think LA County needs them back.
Everybody, you're sitting on the precipice of a historic election. One of the reasons why is because you've never had this many candidates to choose from ever before. And some of them are really good candidates, particularly Mr. McKinney, formerly with Major Crimes. He's an elite trial attorney with their unit and with their office. But because Gascón has so emboldened criminals over the last few years, I'm telling voters that you need to make a bolder choice for LA, and that's me. I represent the boldest thing you can do in the office on March 2024 when you go to vote, because I'm going to tell criminals what they need to hear, which is that playtime's over. Furthermore, I'm going to put politics last. I'm the only candidate up here that is truly independent. I've never been affiliated with any party whatsoever. And although my position is to say things like playtime's over, I'm not just an old school, throw the book at him type prosecutor. I'm the only candidate up here that's actually presented to his elected progressive unit based on the protests we heard in 2020 that gives the public what they want, that uses the most cutting edge technologies that we have so that we can begin to start bringing forward a new justice system that LA County deserves. Furthermore, though,
You got 5 more seconds.
Bobcat, most important thing I bring to the table is that a 4th generation Angelino, I love this county and I love the people that make it up, and I have a passion to bring the DA's office back to #1 in the nation. And I'm also going to get this place ready in the clear 4-year plan using the resources that are already arriving right now for the Olympics in 28 to show the world that LA is a world-class city and it's beautiful. Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me here today. How many of you want to get rid of Gascón? Okay, pretty much everyone. Then you should vote for me because I'm the only one that can beat them in a general election. It's true. Everyone else here is to the right of Gascón. They're into more punishment. Judge Mitchell said he's going to run. He couldn't punish people enough. Everyone wants to punish people as much as possible. And the people, maybe not in this room, but the people of LA County are progressive. They voted for Bernie. I'm the most progressive candidate. I'm the only one that can possibly beat Gascón. Everyone else can split the vote 10 ways anyway, so I'm going to get in the top 2. So get behind me now. You know, get in on the last pitch. Thank you so much. And vote again. Thank you.
Can I go? Oh, thank you. We're not running to come in second on March the 5th, 2024. Let me tell you something. Public safety is the right of everyone. If you're a Republican, you deserve public safety. If you're a Democrat, you deserve public safety. If you're no party or somewhere in between, you deserve public safety. It's the right of all of you to get public safety. We don't need a bureaucrat in the DA's office like George Gascón. We need an actual leader. And I was the first one to step forward and fight against George Gascón's directives, and I've been doing it for a long time. From day one, we will remove every policy George Gascón has implemented and go back to following the law and providing public safety for all of you. I hope that all of you vote for Jonathan Hatami for district attorney. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for hosting this important event. This is a critical election. There's nothing more important than our safety and the safety of our families. I have the vision, the experience, and the energy to tackle the problems we have in the county right now. You heard about my time as a federal prosecutor, as an assistant United States attorney. I prosecuted some of the biggest cases in this county, in this area. I convicted the head of MS-13 in trial just last year. The year before that, I convicted the head of the East Coast Crips. I led the federal robbery program for 7 years. Since I launched this campaign, I've collected endorsements from leading elected and former elected officials, from individuals such as the city attorney, Heidi Feldstein Soto, from the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, the only business group that's endorsed in this race, from the League of Conservation Voters, the only environmental group that's endorsed in this race. Just today, I announced the endorsement of former Controller Wendy Gruhl, endorsed by 2 other Los Angeles City Controllers, by City Council member Bob Blumenfield, former Senator Bob Pittsburgh. All of those speak to my skill, and I'm the right person to take over as district attorney for this county, to provide the vision, the energy, and the experience that the office so badly needs right now.
Not only did I receive the recommendation for the LA Police Protective League this week, which I'm very proud to have been honored with, I also was taught in the Rick Caruso poll, whether you think it's biased.
Biased.
Well, you know what? That's because your guy didn't make the poll. People with law enforcement endorsements, which are important and vital. We need more than DAs sitting up here that have tried high-profile cases, because we've all done it. We need more than outsiders who've never stepped a foot in the district attorney's office. I really like Mr. Chemerinsky. We're like debate buddies. He's never been in the district attorney's office. Nathan Hochman, who's not here, is not only an outsider, but he's also a defense attorney. I work for every district attorney from Ira Reiner to Jackie Lacey, and luckily I didn't have to work for this current administrator because I left ahead of time. And I left for a reason, because like Judge Milton said, I left the office to take off my prosecutorial blinders so that I could sit as a judge and wear the black robe of justice to look at the system from a more overarching perspective. 35 years in court, over 100 jury trials, over 150 parole board hearings. We need a candidate to take this man out, because we are not safer than we were 3 years ago today. And I know that somebody has their fan club here, because the fan club, who I respect, is at every single debate. That is not the candidate that can defeat George Gascón.
All right, thank you all. Thank you all once again for your time tonight. And again, Mia, thank you for helping put this on. Craig Fiegener, thank you very much. You did an excellent job. Councilwoman Tracy Park is just going to do a quick wrap for us, and then we can all go on our way. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you all for being here. And once again, thank you so much to the candidates and to the Westside Current and to Harvard Westlake. In the last 3 years in the city of Los Angeles, we have seen crime skyrocketing. People do not feel safe in their neighborhoods, in their communities, and they are not safe in their neighborhoods and communities. If you're living in this neighborhood and this is where you are raising your children, you have a right to feel safe here. If this is where you are opening a business and investing in this community, you have a right to be safe. Your employees should not be on the front lines of public safety. When you call the police, you expect them to respond, and we've seen morale at an all-time low over the last 3 years. When you, unfortunately, are the victim of a crime in Los Angeles, you deserve to know that your district attorney has your back and is going to stand with you. It is not too late to restore public safety in Los Angeles. There's a lot of outstanding ballots. Please make sure you get them in. We have an historic opportunity to change the course of history in Los Angeles, but we need you to vote and we need to get it right. Thank you. Thank you.